All right, we're back. This is another episode on the Matt Marine channel of Surviving with Archery. And this is one of the things I want people to consider, and that is recording your shots. Having some kind of notebook where you can record your shots for later purposes in the area of, say, reference or data mining, okay? Now, if you look at competitive marksmen, or if you look at snipers, a lot of times they have a book where they record all their shots. When they record their shots, they'll record down what rifle they had, what the caliber was, what the bullet grain was, how much powder was in there, the distance the shot was made. They may record things like elevation, windage, humidity, barometric pressure, where in the world they were at, different things. They have to sometimes account for like the Coriolis effect, and the spin of the earth, where the target's going to be. Like there's just tons of information, and they have to account for stuff, and so they record as much information as possible to help them make shots and do all this crazy stuff, crazy awesome stuff. Okay, now a lot of archers, they don't really do that. They buy one type of arrow and they'll stick with it, and they'll go, this is what I like. Okay, now, if you shoot a compound, that's probably most definitely you. And generally, people who shoot compound, they're not going to be doing some of the stuff that people with a recurve do. Okay, if you look at people like that live in South America, they're an indigenous third world tribe or something like that. They have that bow with them all the time. Okay, they got a bow and they got, maybe a machete or some kind of, knife or a cutting tool. And that goes with them everywhere, and they live with that thing, okay? You don't generally see people walking around with a compound, all right? And the other thing I've noticed is that it's a little harder to shoot all the different kinds of arrows out there out of a compound. For example, like flu-flus. You don't see a lot of flu-flu shooting going on out of a compound. But with recurves, it's a little easier to experiment, okay? And the reason is that you can shoot a wider range of arrows. I could never shoot this arrow out of a compound because the pole, the weight on it is too much. And if I were to try to shoot a wooden arrow out of it, it would splinter this, shatter it, and I would get shards of wood in my hand, okay? This is safe to shoot out of a recurve, though. I can make an arrow out of a Mullen shaft and shoot that out of a recurve. That means that I can experiment with a wider range of arrows. And if I haven't said it already, I'll say it again. A good archer should be able to shoot any arrow, okay? Now, these marksmen out there that shoot competitively, they do a lot of research, and they kind of work to tune stuff in. They want the perfect scope, the perfect barrel, they want the perfect round, and they'll experiment with different loads. And that's kind of what you're going to be doing here, all right? These arrows are basically equivalent to different loads, all right? These things are going to be different lengths. They're going to have different tips. The tips way different. The fletchers are going to be different. This is going to be hard to shoot out of a recurve because it's plastic. Generally, you want to shoot something that's got a real feather on it, but it can be done, okay? But these are all things that affect it. Even the knock weights sometimes will affect it. The spine stiffness, the spine diameter. You can see on here, this one says 340. Some of them will say 400. The materials, aluminum might fly different than carbon. Carbon's going to fly different than wood. Wood's going to be not as rigid as aluminum or, carbon, depending on the content, of carbon or whatever kind of wood it's made of. There's all these variables, and so you need to experiment with that and write it down, okay? Another thing you need to consider is, let me see if I can find it here. When you write down shots and you write down different experiences with your bow in a book, you can go back and you can reference, say for example, I'm in Arizona and I'm hunting something awesome, okay? Something awesome with horns. Maybe for some odd reason there's a bunch of elk there, okay? You can write down the last place you killed an elk, and if you have to go out there and kill an elk in an emergency to feed your family, you can look at the shot and where you made it at, and you'll discover some cool information there sometimes. For example, I learned this the other day, 3D shooting. Sometimes far away a target will look like this, but it's really like that, and it's angled, and it's not straight. And so where you think the center is that you're aiming for, where you think that's at, it's not actually there. So you have to shoot it somewhere else to hit that point. That's something worth writing down. There have been times when I've been in the woods and I'll look at stuff and I think, that's straight up and down. And I put my pin on it and lo and behold, that thing's actually angled. And I'll look at the level on top of my sights and I'm like, sure enough, the bubble's not hovering over the top of this. The bubble and the pin are here. And it actually looks like the pin and the bubble are a little bit like that when I look at the other thing like this. That's worth writing down, okay? This way, if you have to make a quick shot and you know about it ahead of time, you at least had some kind of reference here. It helped you out. You may be more successful in your hunt or in defending yourself. So these are all reasons why I think that archers should record their shots, should experiment with different kinds of ammo for their bow, and that they should get into data mining, okay? Like, we need to start taking our arrows as seriously as these competitive marksmen take their bullets. All right, I'm going to be making more videos here, but this is just what I wanted to record for this one. The next video should be on range cards. So stay tuned for that, and we'll talk about why range cards are important for surviving with archery. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for viewing and for your support. Take care.